What's going on YouTube? HATBLS here, coming to you in late July with a Edison tier list video. Post-Nats, so consider this a reactionary video. Wanted to cover what my thoughts are in the format right now, where it's at, and just where certain decks are going to be. So we're going to cover the Nationals top 8. We're going to cover decks that I believe overperformed, and we're going to cover the majority of these decks here in this tier maker website. I'll also link the website to making the tiers, so you can do this yourself, and you could compare where you would make your list with my list and whatnot. And let's just briefly explain the categories here. So we have S tier. That's where I'm going to put, like, these are the top decks. You need to be able to compete with these top decks in order to rank well. So these will be like your tier 0. You show up to a tournament with this, you have a high chance of doing well, and it's very likely that this deck or one of these decks will win the tournament, or a high representation in Top Cut at least. 1 to 1.5, so the 1s will be kind of closer on this left-hand side, and 1.5s will be kind of closer on the right-hand side. These decks can top, they even could win. These are decks that, you know, you don't necessarily want to be paired against, but it's not an S tier deck. It's still very competitive, it's good, it's a viable choice. Tier 2, these are your, I don't know, your fun decks. They could still top, they could still win. It's a decent deck, it's good. It's kind of like a niche thing, not my type of deck. I like tier 0. I like to play the best deck always, so not for me, but I know there's people out there that like to play these type of decks. Tier 3, you know, this is just, you might as well, I don't want to say you might as well not play the event, but if you top with a deck in this category, it's like, wow, you did something really special here, and you're putting yourself at a severe disadvantage playing it. A lot of these rankings are going to be based upon recent performances and how the meta's evolving and adapting. So if your favorite deck is in tier 3, I hope you're not offended, but, you know, maybe it's time to try a different deck if you want to win, or prove me wrong. You know, these are just going to be based upon recent events, IRL. And again, this is also going to be focused on an IRL basis. I am an IRL player at heart. You know, I have a lot of success both online and in person, but Edison, all of my success has been in person. So we're going to take the GOAT accomplishments, push those aside, and we're just going to focus on in-person Edison. So that's the scope for this video. And we're doing this without a script. We're going off a whim here. I do have the decks that I want to present ready, but we're just going to have a discussion here. And we're hoping we're not going to make this video too long, but we're going to go into it. Cafeteria. So these are going to be like your completely junk decks that I don't really respect. These are decks that probably have not won anything. I didn't even really check if they have. Cafeteria, like, you know, this is something that you would expect your friend in high school to show up to the cafeteria table and play, or even grade school possibly, depending. You know, it's complete junk. And then question mark is stuff that I just don't feel like ranking, or I don't think deserves rank, or it's redundant. So an example right away, I don't feel like ranking Fairy Chaos. We're just going to rank Fairy Pure, and like, I feel like they're close enough. I could be wrong, but I just don't feel like ranking it. So let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's talk about the event. These are the gentlemen that top Nats. So congratulations to all of you. And this is rankings after Swiss. So Isaac on Blackwings representing the Birds, Bronte representing Frog Monarchs, Michael, Gladbeast, Richard, Vayu, William, Amaryllis, Christopher, Amaryllis, Austin, Diva Hero, Hector, Blackwings. So Christopher, we're actually from the same hometown, I believe. Congratulations to you. Nice job doing 519 proud. And Hector, my teammate on Team Rhino, frequent topper. He ended up getting second in this event. There honestly is a strong argument at this rate, and we're in July, that Hector is Player of the Year if that's an award. I would just say so right now. He's the front runner for it for Player of the Year for Edison. It's between him or Fraser Smith, or I might be missing somebody. I'm talking North America only, so sorry to the EU for Player of the Year. He's just been crushing it, man. It's been nonstop. It's like, oh, there's a major event. Who else but Hector? And he's always running Blackwings. But these are the gentlemen who topped, and Bronte was the gentleman who ended up winning it. So let's go ahead and take a look at that photo. Hector, Bronte, and Austin. And also, shout out to this duelist here, a really nice guy, I've played against him, I believe, before in Ohio. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know if it wasn't Edison format, that's for sure. But you want to talk about a guy who's consistent and doing something for this deck. He's the only guy who I believe is topping consistently with this thing, and I think that's back-to-back for him topping. So he's doing something right with this deck. It's kind of nuts, his success with this deck. Hopefully he can get a major win with it. I think it would be the first major win with Diva Hero in recent times. Yeah, and then this is a photo of the top 8 round 1 starting. But, okay, that's enough of the photos and what happened at the event. Again, Bronte ended up winning it, Hector second place, and Austin third place. So let's go ahead and break down the lists. So starting out, and this is just on that website, so templates, I did pick what we're going to rank, but I feel like this website's good enough to just cover. Alien, we're just going to throw into Cafeteria. Again, to differentiate Cafeteria and Question Mark are just decks that I don't feel like I know enough about ranking, or they're just redundant, or I don't feel like ranking because they're just not popular. So we'll go ahead and throw that in the Cafeteria to start. Amaryllis, this deck has seen recent success, and we're, specifically for the scope of in-person, this deck has a very good matchup against a lot of things, especially against like Vayu Turbo, I think, and it's a very annoying deck to play against, especially with the time rules that this format abides by. It's not like GOAT format where it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, or 1 to 4. It's just end of phase or sometimes end of turn, depending what store you're at. Amaryllis, I want to rank it 1. Like, this is a tier 1 deck. I need to break this down too. I want to also take into consideration how difficult it is to side against this deck. Side options against Amaryllis, like Kaiku, is pretty nuts, but you have to be running Kaiku. Obviously, Royal Oppression, Nobleman, Mind Control is kind of good. There are cards to shut this deck down. Fossil Dyna is obviously nuts. So I feel like the sideboard hate is why this deck is not an S tier. And also, it's kind of like in that control/combo type deck, so it's got to go into it's not S tier. It's going to be a high 1 tier, and it is a mill based deck. Your power cards is very important, and we're going to pull up a picture of an Amaryllis deck. So this is just one that I found that's done relatively well in an Edison event, and I'm using Format Library as a resource. So again, a lot of mill cards, everything mills. Okay, so this is just that type of list that, you mill a Dandelion, you're happy. You mill your Plague, you're happy. You mill this, might just be game over. It does a lot of damage, vomits damage, Titanial's nuts. So, yeah, I feel like that's a fair spot for it. Let's go into Blackwing Hybrid. So, I only know how to play 2 decks competently. I guess 3. Vayu Turbo I'm okay with, okay? Like, it's definitely not my best deck. I know how to play Blackwings pretty well, or very well, and I know how to play Hero Beat very well. I haven't really had much experience playing Blackwing Hybrid. I've tested it. I didn't do as well as I did with Blackwing Pure. However, Blackwing Hybrid is extremely strong and actually justifies its own ranking, so it does not go into the question mark tier. It's going to be S tier. It just got second at Nats, piloted by Hector, a better Blackwing player than I am, and this was his deck, folks. So this is actually what he ran. This is like an exclusive look at it. These are like the actual cards. So he's got that main deck Trinade, he's got that Spice, and he's just kind of doing his thing. And what makes it hybrid is that he's running 2 Greffers and he's main decking Agors. So really solid list. Hector's doing 3 Jar Greeds, 1 Yada. So I can only assume that he's doing this to perceive that he's actually playing 6 draw traps instead of just 4. So he's showing jars, pretending like, oh yeah, he has 2 more Yadas for sure. You'd be a fool to run 3 Yadas instead of 3 jars. But like the actual like secondary effect of the Spirit Monster, it's never come up for me, and I've run Yadas probably about 500 ranked matches now, and my in-person stuff. It just never comes up. So pretend it doesn't exist. It just does not come up consistently. It's like an under 1% thing. You can do that, and I think the deception factor is worth it. Really solid list, and then here's his sideboard. So like Hector's doing his thing with those Imperial Iron Walls. He loves it. This card here, it's like another DD Crow, but a trap. And then he sides Solemn, which is kind of cool. I think that Solemn in the sideboard is something that we're going to be seeing in the future for this, especially for this variant. You got to move around cards. You got to be able to fit everything. So Solemn in the side makes sense. You're trying to preserve your life, and I've been testing it too. I don't know how I feel about it. Torrential in the side. I don't know. I think this card's better than Mirror Force overall, and I think you should main it. But whatever. Who am I to tell Hector what to do? Hector's the GOAT. And MST in the side. So yeah, just that's his deck. We're not gonna do a deck profile on it. He's gonna do that himself. But shout out to you, Hector. Congratulations again, and keep it up. Blackwing Pure, S tier. These are the decks to beat so far. I don't know how many more times we have to say it. They're very forgiving, very good in person. A lot of combos you can make. You're newer to the game, it's good. Really strong with Blackwing, it's good. Average player running Blackwing, still a threat. It's just nuts. The format revolves around Blackwings right now. So let's talk about Ludovico's deck here. You know, just consistent Blackwings, 19 monsters, traditional Ludovico Rizzo type stuff. GOAT World Champion, yada yada. Excellent player, probably one of the least best. Don't need to get into too much detail about that. But the deck's just nuts. It's the most popular deck, I believe, and it consistently tops and wins. So again, if your deck does not beat S tier Blackwings, you're probably not going to be in the S tier. Nice list. Let's go on to the next item. Chain Burn. I'm going to put this at 2, and here is an example list. It's just so easy to side against, and also, you know, once you start realizing what's going on, the whole deck loses to Brio. You just kind of... This is Alvarado's list. Shout out to you, sir. One of GOAT's big 3, having an amazing year. Definitely front runner for GOAT Player of the Year this year. So yeah, if it's good enough for Alvarado, it's definitely worth ranking. I'm not going to put it very high. I'm going to put it at 2, and it's only because Alvarado played it. Otherwise, I'd probably put it at 3, but it just hasn't won anything. Whole deck loses to Brio, in my opinion. Dark Calling, Cafeteria. Disaster Dragon, don't know about it. Probably Cafeteria, but we're going to give it the benefit of the doubt and put it in question mark. Diva Frog, we're going to review Spiral's deck here. It's good. It's in person. Frog in person's good. Frogs in person, when you go to a large event, it's very likely, if you're a good player, you're going to be paired against someone, you know, not as good as you in round 1 and probably not as good as you in round 2. Frogs, in general, I think is just overall S tier. I don't think that Diva Frog is S tier. So this one here, I'm not going to put in S tier. I'm going to put it like, hopefully it goes in like that 1 to like 1.5 range, you know, like let's say like the halfway mark. So I'm going to put it here. I don't think it's as good as regular type frogs. It's not as good as Hero Frogs, and it's not as good as Frog Monarch. It is definitely a viable option. We'll put it there, I think, and we don't really have to talk about it. It does frog things. It's very good in person, and the reason why it's so good in person is that IRL players tend to make a lot of mistakes and tend to not have as much experience against playing against frogs. You know, a lot of the times when I talk to these good frog players, it's like, yeah, I just steamrolled my first 3 rounds. They had no clue what they were doing, and I just generated so much advantage. They didn't side any of the hate. Yeah, I just smoked them. Diva Hero Beat, that will be ranked, and let's see here. I think that Diva Hero Beat can go, it's between 2 and 1.5. We will start at 1.5, but don't be surprised if this gets pushed down to 2. We'll do a final review at the end. We'll do an audit. So Diva Hero Beat, we'll review STL Killa, one of the best warrior players for GOAT format of all time. Shout out to you. Yeah, it's just a good list. It does its thing. And, you know, Austin tops Nats with it all the time. It's got to be something. It's got to be something good. It's good enough. We'll keep it here. Diva Hero. Here's a presentation of one of the lists. This is Bad Robot's list from, you know, whatever event. It's one of the most recent ones. It's pretty good. It has a lot of the fun cards. Again, it's kind of like a glass cannon type deck. You know, an OTK type style. Put it here. A little worse than Diva Hero Beat. And I could be wrong, but this is just where I think it's at. Diva Zombie, that's gotta be here. It hasn't won anything. Hasn't really won anything, hasn't really gone close. This is Sicula Ruins Diva Zombie deck here. I think it has a pretty good matchup against Blackwing, which is kind of like the whole thing it's got going for it. It's obviously an OTK type deck, but it still runs all like the good traps. It's powerful, it's scary, I don't want to be paired against it. You know, I think it's very difficult to play well. IRL, I think if you're good and you choose to play this deck, there's a reason why you're playing it, so it's going to be here. I actually think it's better than these. I'm going to put it like a mid-1 deck. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Dragon Control. Okay, so here's a Dragon Control list. These are both going to be considered OTK decks. However, Dragon Control, I don't think it's necessarily won anything when Dragon Turbo has, so I'm going to put this lower than the other one. I don't really want to get into it too much. I'll pull up a little, you can pause the video here, but this is Rob the Man's dragon control deck. I don't think he's won anything with dragon control. I could be wrong, but he has ran it before and he has won before on dragon. So we'll talk about this. He was a phenom in the Edison War League. Plays on Team UI. We'll put it mid-tier 1. You know, you don't really want to get paired against it. It can beat you, it can sack you. And then Dragon Turbo we'll put just above it. We're going to do an audit at the end. So, you know, you can feel free to fast forward to the end of it if you just wanted to see where I rank things, but we'll put it there. So Fairy Chaos, as I said at the beginning, we're not ranking that. Fairy Pure, we will rank. I think it's mediocre. Very hard to pilot. Very hard. We're going to put it at 2. We'll put it at 1.5, but behind, like the worst 1.5 that it's going to be to offer. Here's an example of a fairy deck. This is Insidious's list. He recently beat me in a match, and he just main decked Consecrated. Any deck that can main deck this card, which I think is like Blackwing's worst card to go against, other than, you know, this card is probably worse. As a Blackwing player, I hate it when they have Consecrated. I can't even summon a lot of my stuff, and I need to have like Dynas and other stuff, so I need things to kill it. It requires an answer, and when I pair it with Royal Decree, I can't even Icarus it anymore, so I need to have Dyna or Cyber Dragon to answer it, and if they have Book to protect it, it's just a nightmare. So that and Dust Tornado are 2 annoying cards for me to deal with as a Blackwing player. So it has a good matchup against Blackwings, therefore it's going to sneak its way into 1.5, but I think it's overall pretty bad and very hard to pilot. And this is Insidious's list. Fish. Fish is tier 3. There's only one player I've seen do well with it, 1 or 2 players. It's going to be my good friend James Ark. We're going to mention him for the first time in this video now, but he will get a mention later. And yeah, Fish is just going to go in tier 3. There's only one player who's done anything with it. It's a gimmicky deck in my opinion, and it's a glass cannon. Look at it, doesn't even run any traps in the main. So yeah, it's innovative, it's fun, it's cool, it's kind of like a tier 3 type deck. Flamvell, unfortunately we do have to rank it. It does exist, people do run it. It's going to be again tier 3. It's going to be tier 3. Tier 3. Here's an example. You know, the whole deck's gimmick is Vomit Stardust Dragon, Gimmick Stardust Dragon. This list only ran 2, but for my experience, it does a transition side into something better. But the idea of it is it makes Stardust Dragon. Frog Burn, Frog Combo, don't want to rank them. Don't really see a reason to give it its own category. However, now we're at the big ticket for frogs. Let's talk about Frog Monarch. Okay, this is S tier. Hold on, we'll do this. I think that Blackwing Pure is better than it, and I think that this is better than. Frog Monarch is so good that it just crushes all events if you're good with it. It's like if you don't do well and you're a good frog player, you got sacked or something it just wasn't your day. This is the best deck for frogs in my opinion. It's between this and Frog Hero, and it's very close. We'll talk about that when that comes. However, let's give a big shout out to Bronte running this list. 1 Nats, this is the new deck. This is James Ark's deck, who unfortunately couldn't make Nats due to the whole flight outage and all that stuff, but this is James Ark's list card for card. It's unbelievable. We'll quickly talk about it. It runs all of the good traps. Discard traps are crazy, and it looks like a nightmare. I love that it runs Sangan. It's nuts. It's nuts. I think it does well. I mean, I don't know if it necessarily does well against Blackwings, but it's got a lot of answers to Blackwings. You know, I don't like seeing Vanity's Fiends when I'm a Blackwing player. I don't like answering that. Lad is mediocre. Again, you could do some tricks to get rid of Lad with Vayu and some stuff, so Lad's okay. I don't really care if people side Lad against me as a Blackwing player. And Dust Tornado, obviously annoying as a Blackwing player, but this deck's crazy. It just generates advantage everywhere. The Fishport Blasters are nice. This is a nice touch. Unifrog, obviously a staple for this. Get that +1, threaten that card. So yeah, this list is just crazy. It's definitely the IRL deck to beat. If you want to do well IRL, you need to have practice against frogs and know what you're doing against it. It's very powerful. Salvage is just a +1 generator in itself. Pot of Avarice, same deal. This whole thing is just generating advantage. All of these cards are +1 finders. So, you know, it's not going to OTK you most likely, but it's going to +1. It's going to beat you down. And this is probably one of the major lists to go against. This is now the new thing. So shout out again to you, Bronte, doing Canada proud. Gemini, it's so close between Cafeteria and Tier 3. We're just going to put it at Tier 3 because I've seen this deck on the ladder and I have lost to it before. So we'll put it here. It should be in Cafeteria, but against my better judgment, we'll put it at 3. GB Combo, don't want to rank. Gladiator Beast Pure, we're going to talk about and we're going to rank it. It's going to be a low tier 1.5. who else to mention than Murray for Gladiator Beast? This is like the Gladiator Beast guy. I have a signed card from him, Gladiator Beast card, and I'm very happy I do. And Gladiator Beast is like consistently doing well. Shout out to you, Murray, and shout out to Paul Hobbs, man. Top in YCS Indy with that list. So yeah, it's an aggro type style list. It's similar. I think it's a worse Blackwing list, to be honest with you. You know, it has the aggro components that Blackwing does, but this deck just completely loses to Royal Oppression, whereas Blackwing, I'm kind of happy if you side Royal Oppression against me. It deserves, and it has a horrible Blackwing matchup. Everything gets answered by Kalu. So I know you can chariot it, but whatever, it just overall doesn't do the best against it. So we'll put it above Fairies, though, for sure. Gravekeeper, I don't feel like ranking it. It's not Cafeteria. We'll put it at tier 3. Not going to give an example of it. Just imagine a whole bunch of Gravekeeper cards, and its payoff is going to be like Royal Tribute and Descendant. It's not the best. Hero Beat Stun, we are going to rank it. I ran this before at an RBET, and it was okay. I'm going to put it at tier 2. Can't find a list specifically online about it. Frog Hero, we are definitely going to rank. This is Fraser Smith's baby, and he won Indy with it. I'm sure you guys have seen that video if you're watching this video. It is S tier. It is S tier. We are going to have to put it behind Frog Monarch due to recency bias. Yeah, due to recency bias, and the last event was won by Frog Monarch, so we will put it here. Here's an example of Hero Frog from one of my favorite Blackwing players, Yugioh, and it's very good. Everyone's seen this list before. It's one of the lists to beat, especially IRL. Next up, Hopeless Dragon. Don't know what that is. Hopeless Vayu. Don't know what it is. A lot of these should just probably be Cafeteria. Don't know what this is, or it's not worth ranking. Lightsworn, we will rank. Not my favorite type deck. This is Raikoko's list. He won recently with Dragon Turbo. I couldn't find that list on the website, so I just had to go with that. But shout out to you, sir, for winning with that. And this is similar to that, combo type deck. Very difficult to play. This guy's very good. So he makes good decisions and he analyzes the field well. This is a very hard list to pilot, and Herald's a nuts card, so it's going to be a tier. I think it's honestly tier 1. It's like in between here. We'll put it here. It's like a low. I think it's worse than Dragon Turbo. So we'll put it here because I don't think it's necessarily won anything recently. Kuraz Field Control. I think Kuraz is just a terrible card. I want to put it in Cafeteria. We're going to throw it in Cafeteria. I've never even heard of it before. I've actually played so much Edison on the ladder recently, and I just haven't seen Kuraz. Is Kuraz even legal? Yeah, okay, so I'm back from researching. Again, I'm a GOAT format guy mainly. It is definitely legal in Edison. It came out in 2008, and it'll go into the Cafeteria. So Lightsworn 60 cards. I don't respect lists that are above 40, let alone 60, so this is going to go into that. Lightsworn Pure, we are going to definitely talk about. I think it's one of the sackiest decks in Edison. I think it's a terrible matchup for me when I go to tournaments because I just don't like going against RNG stuff. I'd rather play somebody in a mirror match or play against a Cafeteria deck, and this is definitely not a Cafeteria deck. It has all of the generators to gain +1. It also has the ability to sack you with Wolf, kill you with JD, and this list here still has the Power Trap, still has the Sweepers, it doesn't have Torrential. This is Batel's list, good duelist, and you know what's also the problem with this list for a Blackwing player? It runs Consecrated Light. You know you're against this, you know the Consecrated's coming in, so you gotta be putting in your answers to that. And also, as a kicker, it has Decree. So your Icaruses are going to be shut down. So it's a bad, honestly, I'm just going to say it's a bad Blackwing matchup. I think that this list has one of the best Blackwing matchups there are. It has Honest eats Kalu. So it's not good. If you're a Blackwing player, this is definitely a low tier 1 to high 1.5. We're going to audit it at the end. I'm going to put it above Lightsworn. So it's going to be tier 1. We're going to put it there, and let's continue. Machina Gear. I don't know if this means Machina Fortress. I'm just going to put it in the question marks. I don't really feel like ranking it 3 times. and let's go ahead and talk about Machina Control, which is going to be the Machina Fortress list. This is the one that runs like Raiko's, and here it is on the screen. This is Mash's list. Shout out to you, good YouTube channel and good player. So yeah, this is also Paul Miche runs this on Team Rhino. Really strong list. I feel like it has a good Blackwing matchup as well. Every time I play against it, I'm on Blackwings. I feel like I'm hovering around like a 50% win rate against it. So it definitely gives me a hard time. Has a lot of this deck just outgrinds you, right? It has the +1 generators. I like that this one runs Gale. I know some don't. I think it's good. I think it's a tier 1.5 list. You could show up to a tournament with this and you can top. And if you win, you are making history. So for that reason, it cannot be tier 1. It'll be tier 1.5. I think it is better than both the Diva. Machina Gadget, I'm going to give a shout out to Carl Waite. This is not a good list, but it is Carl Waite's favorite list. I know he's won with it in the past, and he has this tattooed on his arm. Carl Waite, excellent, and I suppose he's probably good at Edison as well, just hasn't been playing it that much. And you know what's actually weird? I think that this has a decent Blackwing matchup, just because of how annoying the pokes get, and Blackwings, a lot of the time when you get rushed down on damage, you'll end up losing. It's going to go in tier 2, and it's going to go below Chainburn. Annoying list to play against, just not that good. Even Carl's moved on from it. Quick Draw Machine, not going to rank it. Draw Plants, going to rank that. We will put it at 2. Draw Plants, this is JDZ's list. Obviously everybody knows him from the Yu-Gi-Oh community now. As much as you hate it, you are the celebrity of GOAT format, sir. You are the face of GOATs. I like that you got all the GOAT format cards in it. I feel like this would just get crushed by Blackwings. I feel like the ranking is justified, and we'll continue on. Also, I don't think it's won anything recently, so yeah. Quick Draw Volcanic, don't feel like ranking it. It's definitely not Cafeteria. Cat, it's going to be ranked. It's going to be tier 2. It's OTK deck, and it's a worse version of X-Sabers in my opinion. Even look, it's a pretend X-Saber. It runs 3 X-Saber cards. It's okay. It's just it vomits damage. It kind of grinds +1s. We're actually going to audit that right now. It's going to be a higher tier 2. It's probably the best tier 2 deck you can get right now on the list. So here's a list for it. I'm not going to break it down too much because I have never ran it before. Seems pretty OTK-like, and your +1 generator engine is going to be through your hamsters and your avarices and by battle. So it does some good things. We'll leave it where it is. 6 Samurai. So on my Team 519 IRL GOAT, my teammate Martel loves 6 Samurai. Fun shout out to you. I think it sucks. It's going to be tier 3. It's not Cafeteria. It's for sure the worst tier 3. No, it's better than Gemini. Honestly, Gemini is going to go to the Cafeteria. I'm sick of looking at it. It's probably better than Grave. I think it sucks. Alephia, shout out to you. Play something better, bro. You are such a smart man. You can play something just a little better. I know you don't like mainstream stuff, but come on, just try something out. I'm not asking you to run Blackwing, even though I think you'd be one of the best Blackwing players to ever do it. Just put down to 6 Sams, man. Hasn't won anything ever recently, and we'll leave it there. Twilight. This deserves some attention. Edison format. Who else but Chris Mateo? Who else? This is a old list. Ran in actual Edison, New Jersey, undefeated in Swiss, I believe 11-0. So this was one of the topping Twilight lists from actual Edison back in the day. Is it optimized for now? No. However, it is a Twilight list. It's cool, and it's you got to give a shout out to the OGs. Shout out to you, sir. Shout out to my teammate, and shout out to one of the best GOAT format duelists there are. We will put this at tier 2. I don't know if it's won anything necessarily recently, but we'll put it at the highest tier 2. We'll put it above that cat list. Let's talk about something serious. For the sake of controversy, I really want to put it at the highest tier 1 above Amaryllis, but I cannot. It's going to go at S tier, but it's going to be the worst S tier of the 5 that we're going to have up there now. It is definitely part of the big 3. It wins, I want to say, not as consistently as the other 2 S tier lists decks. And I know there's kind of like that triangle that goes out. So the triangle is this. Blackwing beats Frogs. Frog beats Vayu. Vayu Turbo beats Blackwings. However, I just don't know if that's true anymore. Like, I don't know if Vayu Turbo beats Blackwings anymore. If you take a look at Hector's list, he's siding Imperial Iron Wall. That is like the worst card to go against if you're a Vayu player. Like your whole banish is shut down. It's easy. I don't think it's easy to side against, but it's easier to side against than playing against Blackwings. Blackwings cards to answer best card to go against. It's Consecrated to side against it, but it's in all likelihood you probably can't run Consecrated unless you're running, you know, Lightsworn or one of those type of decks I mentioned above. So in my opinion, it is easily the worst of the S tier decks, but it's still S tier. It's very good, and it's not as forgiving on mistakes like the other S tier deck, bird variant being Blackwing. I'm not going to say, I think it's easier to play than Frogs, I would assume. Maybe not at a high level. I feel like Frogs, if you learn the basics of it, you could do something with it, but you know, Vayu Turbo is like, if you summon Armageddon, you take Plague instead of, you know, Necrogarden in certain spots, you'll just lose the game. And I was just using that as an example, but we're going to put it at S tier. It is still the big three, and we'll put it there. Welly Dad, I don't even know what card Welly is referring to. I'm going to put it in a question mark, but it's, in all likelihood, it's Cafeteria. Shout out to ShamWow, last Vayu Turbo major winner, major Edison event and format library. This was his list. I like it. I like the Icarus attack. We're not going to break it down too much. I love the Sork too, and I ran this list on a ladder. I've done well with it. I'm just not as good with it as you are, and I just can't get the success like you have, so I'm sticking to Blackwings for now. This is an S tier list. Let's talk about X-Sabers. X-Sabers is tier 2. It is probably above Chainburn. I don't think it's done anything necessarily. I know it just bubbled Nats. So actually, for that fact, we're going to put it just under Twilight. Here is an example X-Saber list. It's decent. You know, I don't think it has necessarily the best Blackwing matchup. I don't think it does well against any of the S tier lists, so it can't be in tier 1. So we'll continue. That's a lot of zombie lists. I don't feel like ranking all of these. Let's just rank Zombie Hero, and the other ones we'll put in question mark. We'll put this Zombie Hero. We are going to put at probably... So yeah, here's a Zombie Hero list. It hasn't really done anything IRL. Again, the scope of this video is in person, so we're going to put it at like a... it's worse than the other zombie variants. Okay, so let's do a quick audit here. S tier, Blackwing, best deck, I agree. Frog Monarch, better than Frog Hero, as recency biased, agreed. Blackwing Hybrid, still better than Vayu Turbo, agreed. Top of tier 1, Amaryllis, yes. Diva Frog, I agree with that ranking. You know, Frogs you gotta respect, especially in person. Diva Zombie, we're gonna edit this. It's gonna go behind Dragons. Lightsworn Pure, I agree with that ranking being above Christia. Machina, I agree with. These are only because of that Austin gentleman doing well with it. I believe it deserves this 1.5 ranking. Glad Beast, it's consistently topping now. It's now back-to-back. So we're going to leave it there. Fairy Pure, we'll leave it there. End of tier 1.5. Top of tier 2, we got the Twilight. X-Sabers, because it's done something recently, getting close to topping. Rescue Cat hasn't topped anything, but still, you know, has its moments. Hero Beat's done. Put it here. I ran this deck. It was okay. It's worse than the other hero versions, but it's not bad. Chainburn, think it's warranted. Zombie Hero warranted. This is probably a good spot for those two. Tier 3, nearing that Cafeteria junk list. So Fish, shout out to James. Probably it's the only reason it's not in Cafeteria is because you've actually won something with it, but again, you're just a special case. Flamvell hasn't won anything, but people still like to play it. They like to vomit Stardust. 6 Sams, complete junk, but you know, large fan base for it. People run it, and people sometimes do okay with it. And then Gravekeeper, same deal. And then Cafeteria, this should probably be a lot larger. It's just I just don't know how to rank them. You know, like I would love to throw half of these lists in the question mark category into Cafeteria, but we'll just leave it like that. This is my final tier list, and I'm out. Thank you very much for watching.